have anything to say.
Christopher Nolan is a man that needs no introduction. In a time where true auteur filmmakers are becoming less and less common in Hollywood, in favor of corporate oversight, Nolan is one of the few directors left that gets seemingly ultimate creative control while also operating on such a large budget. He's responsible for some of the greatest films of the 21st century so far. Interstellar, Inception, The Dark Knight, most recently Oppenheimer, and the list goes on and on. But there is one film of his that I rewatched recently that doesn't really get talked about as much when someone talks about Christopher Nolan, and it kind of bothers me because it's actually one of the best films that I think he's ever done. And that film is a little project that came out back in 2006, The Prestige.
Are you watching closely?
Now, if you've never heard of The Prestige, I can't say I'm surprised because it certainly isn't as grand in scale as some of his other works. It's not a superhero trying to save a city from a bunch of psychopaths. It's not a man traveling across the universe to save the human race. And it's not about a team going inside of a dream, inside of a dream, inside of a dream. It's quite simply about two magicians. But even though it is a much smaller and more contained story, all the things that make Christopher Nolan such a fantastic filmmaker are present here, and they're turned up to 11. Now, I will be getting into some minor spoilers, so if you haven't seen the film yet and don't want it spoiled, I recommend you get out now. When I think of Christopher Nolan's strengths as a filmmaker, there are two big things that come to mind. For one, he's able to so intricately twist and turn a story in a meaningful way. And two, he's very good at asking meaningful philosophical and ethical questions that paint the overall themes of his films. So in The Prestige, we follow these two young up-and-coming magicians in late 19th century London, and they very quickly become rivals with each other. And the film follows these two as they try to one-up each other and sabotage each other throughout the whole story. It's constantly shifting back and forth between who's on top, who we think is gonna get the edge, and even though this most certainly has the potential to be way too complex and overwhelming, Nolan is able to maintain a very tightly woven narrative so that all the twists don't feel forced or arbitrary. He also so cleverly implements all the foreshadowing elements that by the time it all comes to light, you feel like an absolute idiot. Was I smart enough to pick up on these clues so that I could see the massive reveal at the end coming? No, I wasn't. But even though the twist and turny nature of this film is so good, I think that the best part of The Prestige lies in its themes. The main theme that The Prestige deals with is obsession, and I really found that compelling because obsession is a thematic element that isn't explored that often in Hollywood. The film asks the questions, is obsession okay, and does it ultimately lead to suffering? Is it okay to be so obsessed with something that you lose yourself in the process, even if losing yourself means achieving your ultimate goal? And that's exactly what happens to Robert Angier. He is so obsessed with one-upping Alfred Borden and becoming the best magician in London, and when Alfred unveils his transporting man trick, it's just a downward spiral for Robert that he can't dig himself out of. He has to find a way to make the trick better than what Borden did, and he will do whatever it takes to do it. It becomes his ultimate obsession. And even though he is eventually able to do it, he loses himself and his morals in the process. His obsession ultimately led to his demise. And obsession also affects Borden throughout the film just as much as Angier, but in different ways. Borden's obsession is holding on to, and as we later find out in the film, living the secret that is his transporting man trick. And while it doesn't make Borden lose his mind like Robert did, he has to pay with it by losing the people around him that he loves. Sarah, his wife, is never let in on the fact that her husband is secretly a set of twins that keep swapping places, and the bipolarness in her marriage results in her killing herself. I think what Christopher Nolan was trying to get across with this film is while determination and obsession can often be interchanged with each other, there is a big difference and hard line between the two. Determination can also be seen as purpose, and the act of deciding to firmly act on that purpose. But obsession is a much darker version of determination, where you would sacrifice anything to achieve that purpose. And once you cross that line, it's almost impossible to come back. So all in all, if you haven't seen The Prestige, and like a lot of Nolan's other work, I highly recommend you check it out because this is a film that I think deserves more praise. And even if you aren't necessarily the biggest fan of some of Nolan's work, I still think you could find some enjoyment here because it's just so well written. And I honestly think that The Prestige is one of the biggest hidden gems of Hollywood so far of the 21st century. Well, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. If you made it this far and you enjoy this type of content and want to see more like it, do me a favor by leaving a like and hitting that subscribe button. And if you want to be notified about my next video, hit that notification bell. But anyways, that's all I got for today. I'll see you next time.